Welcome to the channel, everybody. In today's video we're talking KBS shafts. I've been using the KBS shaft this season. I've moved out of a Project X, which the Project X feeling a little bit more rigid, a little bit less feel from it, where I've got some great feedback from the KBS shafts. I've been doing a little bit of work with them for some other videos, and I thought today we'd have a little look at a few other shafts that they've got in their lineup, because the testing that I've done has been really quite interesting. Let's get into it in this video. Let me hit some shots for you in the studio. Now, when it came to the KBS shaft, moving from the Project X that I've had in the past, I've had a 6.0 Project X, which is around the 120 to 125 gram mark. I wanted to get something a little bit closer to that from a feel point of view, because ultimately, in my mind, and certainly the fittings and the testing that I've done in times gone by, is that as we move around with weight, we start to get a sense or a different feel off the face, but also we get a different feel when it comes to the strike performance. And ultimately, from my point of view, strike is absolutely king. And I've often found that when you read the gumph that you get from these companies telling you the information about the shafts, I don't always get that when I'm doing my testing. So I thought today we'd test these shafts, tell you what KBS are saying about them, but actually put them to the test and see if what they're saying is actually relating to the shots that I'm playing here in the studio. Now, the KBS Tour shaft, they're kind of their standard shaft, should we call it, is very much a mid-flight with a mid-spin, which is, well, I mean, that's massive, isn't it? If you think about mid-flight, mid-spin, I mean, what does that actually mean? Well, the Project X that I've come from is definitely a lower launching shaft with maybe a little bit less spin. I wanted to see something with a slightly higher launch window and maybe just a fraction more spin to get the control of it. And I've certainly seen that when it comes to the irons that I've been playing this year. Definitely seeing that ball launch just a fraction higher when we're out on the golf course, but don't feel like I'm, let's say, losing any control when it comes to the spin side of it as well. Whereas the KBS Tour V shaft, which actually looks very similar to the KBS Tour, you've just got simply a small V on there on the label, is a slightly different animal when it comes to certainly the weight of it, which it's being 110 grams in the stiff flex that we've got here, but it tells us that we're going to get a lower launch with a little bit lower spin. And it's always difficult to see exactly what window you're getting when it comes to hitting in a studio, which is always the difficulty, because ultimately lots of pros have studios now. But if you look at the numbers that we've put up on the side there, these are my averages over 10 shots with each iron. I'm seeing actually very similar ball speeds off the club face, but the launch window just a degree lower in the launch from the V compared to the standard Tour. And then if we look at the actual spin numbers of them, I'm seeing that Tour spinning just 150 revs more than what I'm seeing out of the V shaft. So I'm definitely seeing a lower launch from here. I'm actually seeing a slightly lower window when it comes to the actual spin point of view. So if you're a player, let's say, probably looking at wanting something a little bit lighter, but doesn't want to lose the launch window, wants to keep it a little bit low with a little bit less spin, then probably the V might just work a little bit better for you over the Tour. Now, from a dead weight point of view, the difference between the Tour and the V, what, 10 grams difference? I didn't feel a great deal of difference between them, certainly from a dead weight point of view. However, when I now pick up the Tour Light, which, as you see from the label, is a little bit more white, it really does stand out as a difference. Well, this particular one is 100 grams. So I'm now 20 grams less than what I'm seeing or feeling out of the standard Tour. And I'm definitely feeling a difference with this particular one now. And this is where I start to, let's say, lose a little bit of strike for me personally. And to be fair, I didn't hit a bad one there, did I? However, as we look at the averages over the 10 shots again that I've hit with the Tour Light shaft, we can start to see some differences again. I'm seeing a higher launch out of the Tour Light compared to certainly the standard Tour, and even more so than what I'm seeing out of the V. And then the actual spin numbers, well, that started to rev up just a little bit more as well. So I'm obviously delivering a little bit more loft into the ball when I'm hitting that light shaft over certainly the other two shafts. And distance-wise, well, I'm not getting a great deal of difference in the distance, and the reason for that is because my club head speed has increased. Going lighter in the shaft is giving me just a little bit more clubhead speed, which ultimately, because my strike is performing quite well on this particular occasion, I'm still getting a little bit more ball speed, but with that extra bit of spin and the fact that the ball is up in the air just a little bit more, it's just stalling a fraction for me, therefore falling down at roughly the same yardage as what I'm getting out of the other two clubs or shafts that we're testing here today. So actually really interesting that KBS, what they're saying, is actually coming through in the testing that we've done here today. So ultimately, the performance that I've got with these particular shafts are showing me that what KBS are saying about them is actually happening, giving me some different readings, giving me some different launch windows, which is ultimately really important and certainly is important when it comes to shafts. There is definitely going to be a feel difference, and maybe because I've hit quite a few shots here today, I'm getting a sense of how they're working for me, and maybe I'm adapting to those shafts. But that's why it's so important to make sure you get fit for the correct shaft that's going to work best for your game. But ultimately, even though I've kind of got used to these shafts already, look at what we're getting now from the dispersion side of things, and this is the important bit. So ultimately, we want to see what the numbers are giving us. We want to see distance control. We want to see descent angles coming into the greens, what's going to work best from a spin point of view. But when it comes to being from a dispersion point of view, how close can I get it to that hole on a regular basis? And you can see that that slightly heavier shaft that I've got, which I'm currently using, and the fact that I've used it for some time now, is giving me a much tighter dispersion than I'm getting out of the other two clubs. I do like the fact that that V certainly launches a little bit lower, but as I go a little bit lighter, my dispersion really starts to move around the sort of edge of the green and even off the green on certainly the shots that we've hit here today. And I think that's really important when it comes to a fitting is, yes, you're trying to get the numbers right, but ultimately we want to get it as close to the hole as we possibly can. So I hope you've enjoyed that video and you've now got a better understanding of what KBS are offering when it comes to the shafts. Shafts are ultimately the engine of your game when it comes to your clubs, because feel, in my opinion, is absolutely key to getting the best strike possible. And to get the best strike possible, you need to go for a fitting and you need to get into the correct shaft with the right weight and the right performance for your game. So I'd like to hear down in the comments, are you going to be testing out a few different shafts this winter to see if it can help with your game for next season?